The government?
The government. Do you trust them?
I mean, no.
Sometimes I don't. I don't know. And especially when we go through this list, they've done some very sketchy things. conspiracies do happen sometimes.
Yeah. And sometimes they turn out to be true. I mean, I want to think that the government has our best interest at heart, but sometimes I just don't know. Now, some of you may have seen the viral meme where a certain conspiracy theorist slams his hand on the table and loudly declares, "I'm sick of them putting chemicals in the water that turn the frickin' frogs gay." I'm not gonna say his name, but I'm sure many of you know who I'm talking about. Now, I know this man has said some incredibly offensive, insensitive, outlandish, and downright terrible things, but believe it or not, this particular theory might actually be true. Well, partly true that is. You see, in the early 2000s there was a study done that involved a pesticide by the name of atrazine. That's A-T-R-A-Z-I-N-E because you just might want to know that information. The study also involved a group of African clawed frogs. Tadpoles raised in atrazine contaminated waters actually became hermaphrodites, developing both male and female reproductive organs. When adult male frogs were introduced into the waters, they stopped producing their male hormones and their reproductive organs became feminized. What's really scary is that the waters used in these experiments had atrazine levels as low as 0.1 parts per billion, which is 30 times lower than levels allowed in our drinking water. Atrazine is currently used in the United States, Canada, and Australia. Why? I have no clue. It really doesn't seem necessary or all that smart. Is this all some kind of strange government experiment? Maybe not, but also probably yes. It's super weird and also just don't use it, but okay.
Next on the list, we have the Nina Kulagina experiments. So Nina Kulagina was born in Russia in 1926, and from a very young age, she started to notice that objects seemed to move on their own around her, especially when she was angry. She grew up realizing that she had psychokinetic abilities, which she claimed to have inherited from her mother. She joined the Red Army at 14 years old in the tank regiment during World War II. And then after the war, the Soviet government took notice of her strange abilities and began performing experiments with her. There is footage of her performing some of her psychic abilities, making small objects move on their own, apparently just with her mind. She was even said to have stopped a frog's heart from beating during one of these sessions. Now, did she truly have special abilities? Was she just a simple charlatan? Not 100% certain, but what is certain is that the USSR was very interested in her during the Cold War, and according to some, they even set out to see if she could take out enemies just by using her mind.
Next on our list we have Operation Red Hat, which involved accidentally releasing potentially harmful biological agents onto an unsuspecting public. The operation took place in 1971 and was conducted by a military testing facility in Utah. The purpose of the operation was to test various methods of disposal for chemical warfare agents. One of the methods involved burning the agents, including VX, which is an incredibly lethal nerve agent in open air pits. Yeah, you heard me. A room full of scientists, and no one thought to say maybe we shouldn't burn deadly chemicals in an open air pit. Okay. Of course it was an incredibly bad idea, as the act allegedly led to the release of a variety of toxic chemicals into the atmosphere that wafted into nearby civilian populations and very negatively affected them. It's assumed that a large number of people became incredibly ill and even died as a result of inhaling the air contaminated with the toxic agents, but I could have told you that. They need to think a little more.
It's not just Russia that took an interest in someone with supposed special abilities, but the USA as well. Uri Geller is a much more well-known name than Nina Kulagina. This guy was kind of like the Chris Angel of the 70s, even appearing on talk shows like Johnny Carson. Geller is a self-proclaimed psychic and would also perform stuff like spoon bending. Now apparently there was also some less publicized stuff going on with him involving the CIA. This was the 70s, so the Cold War was still a thing. Not as tense as it had been in the 50s and 60s, but still present. So the CIA were very interested in the possibility of special abilities and if they'd be able to implement them into military operations. So they conducted a series of tests on Geller in 1973, focusing on his supposed clairvoyant abilities. In one of these experiments, scientists they did a test where they chose a random word from a dictionary while Geller was isolated in another room. He was supposed to draw what they'd picked without seeing or hearing them, of course. They picked the word fuse. Now strangely, apparently when Geller came out of his isolated room, having no way of knowing what word they'd chosen, he had sketched a picture of a firecracker.
Next up, we have Operation Big Buzz, which took place in 1955, and once again involved exposing the public to incredibly dangerous biological agents. Yay! In this case, it was yellow fever along with some other highly contagious diseases. Over 30,000 infected mosquitoes were released throughout several southeastern United States. While the mosquitoes were supposedly not infected with live pathogens of the diseases, the experiment was still deemed highly unethical by the general public, who had received no warning of the operation before it took place. So, what was the point of the government releasing hundreds of thousands of mosquitoes carrying allegedly deadly viruses onto the general public? Well, many people believe it was a test run designed to see just how effective the infected mosquitoes were at transmitting the various viruses to humans in a range of different environmental conditions, presumably to test how mosquitoes would perform as vessels for biological warfare agents.
Alright, next up, we have the occultism practices of the SS during World War II. Not only does the man who shall not be named, whose name starts with H, not only did he win the award for history's most evil man, but he's also one of the weirdest as well. He took things to comic book levels of villainy though, when he began having the Third Reich delve into the realm of the occult. Most of this was led by one of his right-hand men, Heinrich Himmler, who was very into occult stuff. They would seek out ancient artifacts that were believed to hold special powers. There were experiments done on psychokinesis. They'd perform dark rituals. One of the most famous locations they used for some of these rituals was Huska Castle in the Czech Republic, said to have been built over a bottomless pit to hell. Apparently they'd attempt to summon up demonic powers to aid in their crusade. It's absolutely insane. It's like Indiana Jones. It's just, yeah.
Next on the list we have HAARP. That's HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program that controls the weather. Maybe. The HAARP uses powerful radio waves between 3 and 30 million hertz to heat ionospheric plasma. What is ionospheric plasma? Well, it's a mix of electrons, atomic and molecular ions, and neutral particles that exist within the ionosphere surrounding the Earth, which protects us from the sun's harmful UV rays and what can only be described as unpredictable space weather. With all that being said, I don't really think it's that far-fetched for people to believe that by manipulating and heating ionospheric plasma, the government is quite literally actively experimenting with it. Duh. Exploring the effects of changes to this layer in the Earth's atmosphere that directly relates to Earth temperature regulation, it's kinda weird. Is it getting hot in here, or is it just the government secretly experimenting? You tell me, but actually let me know in the comments because I do like to read them.
Alright, next on the list we have the Robert J. White experiments. Fair warning, things get kinda icky here, especially if you're an animal lover. For some reason in the 50s, 60s, and even into the 70s, there were a number of experiments done with animals that involved taking the head of one animal and then placing it on a different body, like Sid from Toy Story, and then seeing if the animal would live. This was done with dogs, frogs, monkeys, cats. Well, in 1970, the US government funded an experiment carried out by Robert J. White, where he transplanted the head of a monkey onto the body of another, and was actually successful. This new Franken monkey could hear, it could smell, it could taste, and it could even follow objects with its eyes for just over a week, and then it died.
Next up, we have that one time the United States government spent millions of taxpayer dollars trying to figure out the validity of psychic and paranormal phenomenon, which James has touched upon in 2 points already. But like, honestly, they could have saved a lot of money if they had just given James and I $500 each to spend a night on Poveglia Island, the most haunted island in Italy, and we could like telepathically tell them the ghosts that we saw. But that's another story. The main goal of the project was to determine whether or not a person could use psychic abilities to gather information about distant or hidden opposing operations. Many experiments were conducted to determine whether or not individuals were able to provide specific details regarding locations, objects, or events using only their minds. There are theories out there that claim that part of the experimentation involving paranormal research was geared towards psychic espionage, which again, James mentioned. Believe it or not, the project was ultimately considered a success, and while critics and skeptics continue to doubt the validity of psychic ability, it's actually not uncommon to see psychics working as valued members of the law, including CIA and FBI agents.
And finally, we have the secret experiments going on in Antarctica. Antarctica looks to be this mass of frozen wasteland, right? But for some reason, there are a number of government-run bases set up there, and while some of what goes on is disclosed to the public, there's other stuff that's a bit more mysterious. The United States and Russia are said to have set up secret research facilities in Antarctica to study alien technology and artifacts. These bases are equipped with advanced scientific equipment and are being run by elite scientists and military personnel. At least that's how the story goes. But some even claim that these facilities have made contact with extraterrestrials. So why Antarctica? Well, Antarctica is said to be a hotspot for UFOs, first of all. And it does sound pretty far-fetched, but if aliens really were visiting Earth but wanted to stay out of sight, Antarctica would be a pretty prime spot. There are no permanent residents, and it's vast. So the idea of there being leftover alien technology buried under ice that scientists are researching or reverse engineering still sounds completely nuts, but you never really know, right? There you go, creepy government stuff.
Yeah, I buy it. I feel like Antarctica's got a lot of secrets that they're hiding.
It does.
And honestly, a lot of these might sound incredibly crazy, but there's some validity there.
There is.
Yeah.
Little known fact, I've been under surveillance by the Swedish government since 2006.
And I haven't.
Anyway, folks, we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, I've been your host, Hannah Thompson.
I've been James.
See ya.
See ya.